Thank you. All right, thank you all so much. Totally in awe of the presentation so far, so we're gonna try to keep that train going. Yeah, I wanna start by thanking my mom, my brother, his girlfriend, who made the trip today, and then also my sister, my girlfriend, and my dad, who all played a major part in me getting here today. So, and also the Young Alumni, Young ND Board. You guys have put on such an awesome show for us. So, I'm going to start where a lot of you started, which is the first time at Notre Dame. So that's my first dome pick, which I'm sure a lot of you have as well. So I didn't have any connection to Notre Dame until the summer after sophomore year in high school, when I did a summer program. And so, of course, fell in love with campus, stayed in Dillon Hall, and just got a tremendous experience that summer. So you can imagine my immense disappointment when I got home the spring of senior year and saw the small envelope from Notre Dame waiting for me. So I don't know if they still do it through mail today, if it's all online, but back then the idea was if you got the small envelope, you were done, you were rejected. So, but I was fortunate enough because I wasn't rejected, I was waitlisted, so I still had a little bit of hope left. And so I just kind of did what I could do. I pestered my admissions counselor here at some points, like once a day, just letting them know that I was still there. And so eventually, in mid-May, I got the call from a 574 and like jumped up and ran outside to make sure I had good reception and found out I got in. And so that was really just one of the best days of my life. So, so when I got to Notre Dame, of course, the reality set in that, you know, by my logic, I was at the bottom of the pool, right? I was the last one in the door. So I was really intimidated and wasn't sure if I would be able to make it, right? But I was really lucky because I got put in a section with a bunch of guys who are still actually my best friends from Notre Dame today, pictured on top there. And so with their support, I was able to, you know, really thrive. And so, yeah, keeping the rowing theme going, I was on the men's rowing team, which was just an incredible experience, and got to be an RA in Dillon Hall. So that's our section Christmas card that we sent out to all the freshmen's parents, which, of course, was a big hit. So with the parents, but another big question I had coming in was what do I want to do? And this is something a lot of people have touched on, is finding your passion, right? And so I actually got some really awesome advice from my RA as a freshman, who told me to, you know, collect the majors that you think you're interested in, and then just look at the names of the classes that are in that major. And so he's like, that'll give you just an amazing snapshot of what each major is about, right? What you're actually going to be doing if you're in that major. And so I had a couple vague interests that I've listed there coming out of high school, you know, computer science, physics, and being hands-on. And so I found all of that in electrical engineering. And so this, speaking of the hands-on aspect of it, one of the things I wanted to do my sophomore year was get involved with a lab. And so I actually had no idea what type of electrical engineering research I wanted to do. So I sent this email, which actually tomorrow will be 8 years ago to the day, you can see the date, to half of the electrical engineering faculty. And if some of you are a little bit better with Gmail than I was back then, you can see that text right there is purple, which means it's copied, right? So all these professors knew that this was a copy and pasted message, not specifically addressed to them, right? So I actually just saw this the other day and got a real big kick out of that. But of course, that didn't matter to DJ, Devdeep Jinnah, who was one of the first people to get back to me. And so I went to meet with him, and he started, you know, going on about 2D semiconductors and how these high-power, high-frequency materials were going to change the way we communicate and with each other. And you know, I had no idea what any of it meant, but I was just really excited about getting involved with it, right? And so I did, and I just, you know, did whatever measurement the grad student told me to do to make myself useful. And but it was the hands-on experience I was looking for, and you know, with DJ there, I was excited about it. And going to the lab meetings, you know, the group meetings with him, I could see that it wasn't just me, but he made everybody in the room excited about what he was excited about. And so I worked with him until midway through junior year when he told me he was moving his lab to Cornell. And so I worked with a few other professors after he left, but I got to the end of college, and I'd always thought I was going to just get a job, but then I was like, wait, I've done research this entire time, so maybe I should look at grad school. And so I did, and applied, to several places and got in and visited a few of them. And of course, when you're working with a professor as an undergrad, you kind of think of yourself as just this like, small person who has the privilege to like be in the same room as like this great professor, right? And so I went to visit DJ and actually his wife Grace, who is also an esteemed professor of electrical engineering. They were both at Notre Dame and both moved to Cornell. Went to visit them, and they were really the only people who made me feel welcome. They're like, we want you to come here. Please come work with us. And so that was, that makes the difference in knowing what I had in them. So I ended up going to Cornell from Notre Dame directly out of undergrad. Kept the rowing theme going still. So the rowing club, I started that, and I still coach for that today, which is, it keeps me going. It's like my 2-hour escape during the week. So really awesome. But so my work focused on aluminum nitride based power amplifiers. So basically the aluminum nitride keeps these power amplifiers cool and improves the power. So just to give you an idea of what these things do is like on a cell phone tower, right? You need to give the signal strength so that it can get from there to your cell phone. And we all know how frustrating it is when you don't have service, right? So the more power you can give it on the cell phone tower, the further the range, the better coverage, et cetera. So that's just one idea of where this technology may be applied. So halfway through grad school, I got to participate in this school program called NSF I-Core, which is where you get to basically, it's for academics who have this cool technology, but, and like I just mentioned to you, have a vague idea of where it may be applied in industry. And usually that's that's as far as you need to go when you're in academia. You just have the kind of vague ideas, but this was to figure out, who specifically is going to look, who's going to care, right? Everybody thinks it's cool, but who's going to open their checkbook, right? And that's a much smaller group of people. So the idea for us was to travel around for 6 weeks to all these different companies and talk with people and, find out what's your problem, what keeps you up at night when you're working on your circuit board, or you went doing, whatever management tasks you're doing, what's the issue? And so from that, we were able to find a few places that we felt like our power amplifier technology would really provide some value for people. And so this was kind of the kickstart for me towards entrepreneurship. And so over the course of, from the end of my third year to the end of grad school, we worked on developing this startup called Socterra Inc. So we actually started it last year, but we were still students. So I actually just finished last month. I'm the first only employee at Socterra, and I started September 1st. So very new, very small company, as small as you can be. But yeah, we were able to get our first grant going, and so it's focused on the scaling of this technology. So in semiconductors, you need to make it bigger to bring the cost down. Larger wafers, more of them each way, more power amplifiers each wafer. So starting the process of scaling and developing our minimum viable product. So, and these are my colleagues. So I should mention briefly Reet, who is the closest guy I work with and is involved with the company as well. And DJ and Grace remain on as founders. So I guess what I want to leave you with is, there were a lot of points, I think, in my talk where I mentioned that I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't know where I was really going to go. But along the way, it was always the people around me that, whether it was, the people I lucked into having around me in my freshman section, or meeting a great professor like DJ and Grace, that really shaped my path. And so I'd say, for any undergrad who may see this, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but if you're able to find people who inspire you and good people to just have around you, then you'll be just fine. And fortunately, there's a lot of that here at Notre Dame. So yeah, with that, I will conclude. So thank you.